Well, we finally did get some rain and got a nice little rainbow to show for it. And let's see if we can finally get around to those ficus I was talking about. All right, so I have procrastinated to make this an entirely different day. But I think we're going to work on these ficuses finally. So we are going to see if we can make sure that the entire ficus is in the frame when I'm filming this time. So this ought to be fun. We're going to try to start with this one here. It is in a rather inexpensive bonsai-ish pot. It has one of the ones with the drip tray is attached to it. And that's actually probably a better front right there. You can kind of see the structure of the tree in there a little better. So we're going to go to town on this, and I'm going to just see if what I can prune away. Some of these I might try the profile pruning with the shears, and then going with branch selection, while the other ones I might just go in and cut back to 2 leaves per branch. Try to get the ramification, and I might change my mind what I want to do in the middle of all this. Okay, so we got some spider webs in here. Good thing in North Carolina, really the only spider you got to worry about is the black widow spider. Oh, actually, black widow spider and the brown recluse. Brown recluse, as the name implies, is reclusive and likes to hide, so you're more likely to get bit by one of those when you're moving a piece of furniture that hasn't moved in decades, and they're all hiding behind there. They're nasty. Their venom will literally eat a hole in your skin. And of course, black widow is poisonous too. I find black widows mostly under rocks and in gardens and stuff like that, in little niches. So they're not likely to be the ones inside these trees here. But yeah, I wasn't going to take any chances rummaging around in there with my fingers. All right, so we're just going to go back to 2, removing stubs and directional pruning, trying to see if you can cut back the leaves that are pointing in the direction you want your next branch to go. And some of these I might decide to get rid of. These really long branches, we're going to cut back a little more aggressively. One good thing about the ficus, our rubber tree plant is a member of the ficus family, and so pretty much all the ficuses will bleed a latex when you cut them, and these are good because they self-seal their wounds. You don't have to go by with cut paste or anything like that with them. However, if you do have a latex allergy, I do recommend you wear, obviously, a non-latex glove when you are working with these. But I do not have a latex allergy, and hopefully I will not develop one. You can develop them after repeated exposures. So if I am playing with my ficuses one day and all of a sudden I get nasty rashes on my hands wherever the sap touched my skin, I will know that I have given myself a latex allergy. But I don't have hardly any allergies, so I'm not prone to them, so I can't even say that I actually even have any allergies. I am one of the people that do not, my wife and my children suffer with seasonal allergies every year around here. If you're from the Charlotte area or anywhere, well, I guess anywhere in the South, you'll know what I'm talking about. Seasonal allergies are a bear here. You see, I'm doing some of the branches that were like, that one's growing straight up the middle. That one, all that was doing was making it hard to see and clogging up things. So a couple of the branches I've cut where I've kind of obscured the branches. This little, you know, or something's going straight up like this one. Boom, we don't want that. Get some air into here, get some light into here. Some of these things kind of just, these big leaves too. So it's kind of a little bit of a partial defoliation where I'm trying to get rid of some of the bigger leaves that are going to block the light. Even just doing this has opened up this tree a lot. Got a lot of density right up here at the top. I might want to see what I can do here in terms of simplifying this structure here. Maybe you can see what I'm talking about here is, use the pointer. It kind of goes up, it's fairly straight all the way up to where this old cut point is, and I've got a lot of branches that have come up from there. I might want to take off this one, but the question is, do I want to then redirect the growth of that branch this way, have this keep going this way? You want to have this change directions if I can. And sometimes that's a nice thing to do, is like, okay, well, even right here, okay, it's going up this way, but it's straight, but if I cut it back here, shortens that branch a little bit, also changes the direction, so you get movement in the plant. Gonna get rid of this one here. That's kind of growing up back towards the center. What do you think, guys? What do you think? So let's see, we got two branches here. They're kind of like little step ladder branches parallel to each other, so they're redundant. One of these, either this one or this one, should go. Kind of the same situation here where these are redundant here. So really what might be is that this right here all might be a little redundant. We will lose a back branch there, but I think that might help give a little more, improve the taper, improve the movement. What do we got going on here? Okay, gonna cut off a few more that are growing straight up here. Kind of get that light between the branches look there. So you have, again, a little pad. That one's getting a little long. Probably redirect that. And the same thing here, getting a little long. Actually, I could probably even cut this back here. Right here, you'll see that this is getting a little long, but also any of these branches here could take over and change the direction. Now the question is right here, do I keep this and this? They're kind of almost competing for the same space. I might cut this back here and allow this to have a little bit more of a dominant role in the tree. I'll cut this back a little bit to kind of level that off. All right. So Might be time to put the scissors away as he picks them up and clips another thing off. It's hard to stop yourself. Just a couple more things to clean up the trunk line there a bit. All right, so we're gonna call this one a done deal. And we're gonna give it a big old drink of water, and I think we're gonna dunk it in the water too. Hold on. All right, I've dunked it in the water. And got some little shallow to go over the top of this, so we're gonna water it from the top and the bottom. With a good soaking. And that is about as far as I can go. We're spilling out a little bit there. Okay, all the sawdust I left over here will absorb it all. You can see it's making little bubbles. As that matter, you can see. See, it's having little bubbles coming up there. That's all that air escaping that in the root structure there, and just going to get all that air pockets out. Let it fill up with water so it gets a nice drink. All right, next we have this little guy. It's in a tinier pot, and like I say, it's doing pretty good. It's probably filled the pot there. It's got some roots coming that have escaped out the bottom. It might be due for a repot. We'll see how much of a mood I am for repotting after I have pruned this up. So let's again just kind of go back. Find your two leaves and prune them back. And then after that, you can kind of decide what you're going to keep and what you're not going to keep. Or you might be in a situation here where you're like, already there's a tangle of branches in here we don't need. Let's get those. Yeah, sometimes the growth is so dense. It's a happy little tree in a happy little pot here. And we're gonna give it a little more room for ramification. I might decide to repot this. Some of these have been in these pots for only since like last year. Other ones have been in there for more. I could not tell you which is which, but this one's growing, trying to grow some aerial roots, but they're kind of drying off here a little bit. So sometimes, if it's in the really moist, humid environments, these will put out aerial roots. They don't always, but it can be a nice feature if you get them. All right. Other times people want a cleaner trunk line. These will probably just dry and fall off there. Like some of them are already dead. This one's might have a little life in it. Again, they can come up pretty high. And yeah, ficuses, a lot of times you'll see ficuses with aerial roots. So this is getting kind of a thick base. These ginseng ficus tend to have the tubular tuber roots where they look like potatoes, and they can fill a pot pretty quickly. This pot is probably pretty solid root bound. It's a little bit of a what is it called when you go in a little bit there? So there's a lip on the inside of that pot, which sometimes can make getting these things out a little difficult. And let's see. There we go. Oh yeah, see? That is just a solid mass of roots. Now we can do a quick little root job on this here. Get it into a slightly larger pot. Good thing about ficus is also, or any tree that you are, that roots from cuttings, fairly easy. You can also be fairly aggressive with your root pruning. It won't mind, it'll come back. But yeah, this had no more room to grow. Just a solid mass there, and there's probably a screen in there that I gotta get out. Oh, yeah. This pot must have come with a little screen there. Now that's harder than my normal screens, so I'm not going to be able to just kind of tear it out. I have to kind of cut it out. There's another good reason to repot these ficuses often is because they are so aggressive with their roots. They will go through the root screen, and there we go. Yeah, see, they'll grow right through the root screen and make it real hard to repot, but also, there we go, sometimes ruin your screen. These are reusable. The ones I use there are just like, you know, old window fence screening repair stuff. They, yeah, those tear out pretty easily. You don't really have to reuse them. It's dirt cheap. So I am just going to give this root system a little bit of a profile prune and just get rid of some of these ones that are trying to curl. I am not going to go into extreme detail with this. If you want to see a master working on roots, if you haven't already, you've heard me mention his name before. Nigel Saunders, Bonsai Zone. He does some amazing root work on his bonsais, and you swear every time you see him, like, man, you want to kill that tree. And it doesn't, well, I've seen very few of them go bad on him. Most of them, he's done a really good job. All right, so yeah, I'm just trying to get as much of these roots straightened out. Let's see. If I can find. Hold on. I was looking for my root cutting scissors. I couldn't find them, so I grabbed this old pair here and I'm just going to flatten the base of this down. Now I can, since I've removed enough root here, I can just repot in this pot if I wanted to, or I could find one that's slightly larger. Also, there's things I can do with that root to give it a little bit more ramification so it doesn't look so much like a potato. I actually have tried splitting these roots and wedging like a little piece of perlite or something like that in there to give it a little more of a space, and it is actually turned out pretty good. So let me see what I can do there. I might have to actually cut a little wedge out the center of that. See, like that. kind of do the same thing here with this, as we'll cut a little wedge out of that. And believe it or not, that actually works pretty good. I'll show you on one of the other trees that I've used this technique, what it's looked like after a couple years. These are my ironwoods here today. There we go. All right. All right, so that'll eventually heal over, and will actually then end up being two separate roots. And I'm going to, break that apparently. Oh, yeah, pushed my luck a little too hard on that. Well, we'll see. Maybe there's enough fibers in there that'll actually heal off. We'll see. All right, I may have broken that off a little too much there, but we'll see. There's still some fibers in there that might keep that root alive and might not. I may have just messed that up, but we will see. We're going to bury this in, I think, a little deeper pot and give this a little bit more room to run, and we'll see what we can do on that. Looking for a pot. All right, I decided to have this kind of like, I don't know whether or not this would be a lotus flower or a cabbage design, but we're going to use this, reuse that screening in there, and that pot's going to be, this tree is going to be in here. The thing about circular pots is you don't have to decide where you're putting your front yet. So let's get some soil. And for this, I think I'm going to use a couple, like a layer of the more coarser grain stuff here at the bottom, like that. Create a little mound. And again, I don't think I'm going to wire this one in. I'm going to just use some rocks to hold it in place. And let's see, you got to put this right about there. Maybe angle that just a little bit more like this so that the crown is kind of like staying balanced on there. And not a lot of roots on this right now, but that's going to be okay, because these, again, you could actually cut all the roots off of this thing and grow it as a large cutting, and there's a good chance that it will survive. And don't have to work too much of the soil in, because, well, there's not a lot of roots left to go in there. Let me just throw a little more, because this is going to settle down a bit. Again, mound it up a little bit. It will wash down and settle down a little bit, but I'm going to put some rocks around there so that it has a little anchor to hold it down. Let me see if I can find some decent sized rocks. All right, got a couple of different types of rocks here. These are some quartz rocks. Find these everywhere around here. This area used to be a lot of gold mining way back in the day. Most of the gold mines are now played out, but the quartz would be found in the gold mine, gold veins, and the quartz would be running together. So I'd look for the quartz and find find that, the gold. All right, so this should hold it in place. I'm going to give it a good dunking in the little bowl of water that we've got over there. We'll take the one that I had put in there previously and trade it out, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Now the next one was actually planted in a colander, a little ceramic colander, and again, kind of using that idea of the root, the pond basket idea. See if we can get that roots to not circle around, but of course, you know, you see right here is, oop, pop that right out there. All right. We got circling roots on that anyway. And so we're gonna we'll keep it in its pot for now while we do some trimming. That popped out like a cork. All right, let's do some trimming here. And go down to the 2 leaves here where we can. There's a big cut on this one. This is a big long runner. It's got some small leaves way back at the base, but that's okay. I want to cut back to those tiny leaves way back at the base. Let them branch out from those leaf points. Even the smaller branches are okay with that. Just get a little bit further back on all of these. Now I might not want to do, well, let's see. We might try repotting this one too. It's I think it's probably pretty root bound. It does have this large root that has gone and curved around, and I don't want big thick roots. Let me get the, again, this is kind of grown into the screening material. This orange material that I had was actually like craft mesh. Tried to use that for, oh, look at that. That kind of like went down and around. That went underneath all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our lives a little easier. We're going to go all the way back over here. I know I don't want any of that. I'm going to cut all that off, make it a little easier to get out of this. Yeah, so you see, yeah, that's completely not going to be able to be reused. So we're going to toss this in the garbage. And again, lots and lots of holes in there. I didn't have to drill into them. And it did seem to like being in there. You know, I'm going to try. I'm going to try just seeing if let me see. Hold on. I think I might have one that's slightly larger than this, but the same idea. All right. This is an actually metal colander. I'm going to give that a try. Maybe do more of a slip pot thing. Just kind of like, all right, we'll just throw some soil in there, pop that in there. Do the minimal amount of root work on that one while maybe get some of the big bulky roots out. But yeah, again, I don't think that was as root bound, but it was a good idea to get rid of that really, really thick root. Let it kind of, and you see that's the stub of it right there. Ooh, get off of my fingers. That's what's left of the stub of that. I'm going to cut that back just a little further like that. Again, see if we can get some smaller roots growing from there. I'm just going to try to slip plot it. And since this has got finer holes, I'm not going to even bother with any meshing or screening or anything like that. We're just going to add some soil in there, fill in the gaps on that, and be done with that. So that's going to be a lot quicker. Burying my yeah, this is the one I was looking for. Well, I was looking for this one actually. Well, see, actually these also colander, but this one's metal, this one's ceramic. I actually was looking for this one and I gave up on looking for it, and that's why I chose this one. But now that I found it, boop. We are going to use this one, same idea, slip potted in there, and no mesh this time. Start burying my tools in my cutoffs. Gotta start cleaning up between trees. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of grind that in there a bit. And throw in some new soil on top of this. Again, don't have to be too picky, just adjusting the angle of the tree. Again, this will probably be the front here. It's got the most right there. That's probably our front. So we'll just try if we can tip it a little bit in that direction. Fill in the gaps underneath there and behind there. Take my little bamboo skewer. And by the way, this is my attempt to make the homemade bamboo skewer that Ryan Neal of Mirai Bonsai, who is also an amazing bonsai artist. He's in the he is in the I think this the Washington area, not DC state, not DC, but definitely Pacific Northwest, and studied in Japan. He knows a lot about bonsai, and he's a professional that has his own bonsai nursery out there. But now his videos are like an hour long or more, packed with just everything you want to know, and he knows everything about it. But yeah, you got to really set yourself down. But he had one video that showed how to make these out of bamboo sections, and nice little tapered thing to kind of go in there and work the soil in there. Again, don't have to work the soil too much because it's, you know, just almost like a slip pot. So there we go, $2.99 at Goodwill, probably based on the sticker, before Goodwill started using those little scanner stickers. It's been sitting in my little territory, my little pot collection for a couple years now, waiting for the perfect tree to put it in, and now we got it. Okay, so into the water it goes to give a good soak. Okay, next one is this little, I guess would be a mame size. That's what they would, traditional name for it would be called in Japan. Again, could be held in the palm of the hand. And again, this can be pruned back probably fairly aggressively to keep in scale with the size of the tree and the size of this pot. And it's starting to form a few aerial roots. We'll have to see whether or not we want to repot this. It is getting thick roots on the base here, getting a nice wide base, but again, I might repot it, I might not. We'll see. We're gonna go in here and just cut back to some of these leaves here. Directional pruning too, if you can. And let's see. This one's growing, I don't know if you can see this here. We got this guy here growing straight up. And it's got basically grew off of a fairly thick stub here. So we're gonna cut this back all the way to here. Clean that up. Go back down to one more leaf on there. Again, we're gonna try to keep this one a little smaller. So we're gonna go back down to tiny little leaves if we can here. Again, I might take this all the way back here. I'm going to give this a little more aggressive pruning, I think, just to get its size down a bit. A little more to scale the size of the pot that it's in. It's hard to think to yourself, okay, I don't want to get rid of all this ramification here, but it's a little bit much for the pot, and it would actually probably do better if I cut this off right to here and let these be the primary branches coming off, and then this it would make an excellent cutting for another little mame. So I'm just going to cut that off, and hold on, we're going to cut back a little bit of these branches here just to so it doesn't stress it out too much. You do need to have some leaves to basically kind of what they call pull sap, or to give the roots a reason to breathe, to grow. Like I said, if you don't have any leaves on here, then yeah, it's not going to set any roots because there's no chlorophyll no sugars being produced from the chlorophyll. So you still need your solar panels, but you also don't want to have it so that these are taking up so much water and transpiring so much water, losing so much water through the leaves and this heat, so you're not going to get it's going to end up starving the thing to death. And let's see. All right, so I kind of picked out a few pots. This one we've already seen. This is where I just actually had the first tree in it. This is another pot that I've drilled holes in. It's got a nice big drainage hole on there. This one, nice little, almost like a teacup thing. Got a little bit of a smaller hole in it. Any one of those would be a good place to start. I think I'm going to go with the gray one. I kind of like that X's and O pattern on it too. And you can use like a rooting powder. This comes in different things. Actually, these roots so well, you really don't even need the rooting powder on them. But if I was trying to, get a rooting from a more difficult plant, these hormone powders can work really well. If we wanted to hedge our bets and say, well, I really want that thing to work, well, I might take a little bit here and put a little in the cap here. Dip that around there a bit, get some rooting hormone on there. But again, that's probably overkill for a ficus. They do not need a lot of encouragement to throw roots down. But for this, we're going to use a little finer grain. This is more of the for my smaller plants, and also I use this for my rootings. You can see the there we go. It's got a much finer grain than the other stuff that I was using. So we're going to just throw a little bit of that at the bottom. And really with this, you just kind of put this in here and just kind of stick it in there like that. We're going to use some of these little pebbles and rocks around it to stabilize it so it doesn't get knocked around too much with the life of hard rocks. You can see these, I originally put that thing in there. I actually used these rocks to stabilize that one while it was rooting. So this just keeps the soil down, and actually they do form a little islands of moisture underneath the rock. The soil stays a little damper underneath the rock than the soil that's exposed to the air. So it does help retain some of the moisture in there. Let's get it all in there. So these nice little rocks everywhere hold that in place. And again, we're going to dunk this. We're also going to dunk this because we're not going to repot this. We're going to get it nice soaking wet. And hopefully this becomes a new bonsai. It's got a nice lot of branches fairly low down for it. So this is make a good cutting. And we'll let this on its way to its little mame tree style. Yeah. Hold on. Just because I paused doesn't mean I paused this. I took a moment to clean up a little bit too. So another kind of small pot ficus. Going to just trim them back. Again, we've got lots of repetition here today. But that is sometimes how you learn. And each tree has its own unique structure and decision-making process. So each tree can teach you a little bit and figure out what you want to do with it. I mean, like right here, all this kind of crosses right over there. That might just be a little too much. I'm going to cut it back to those two leaves. I can get that out of there. And again, this one's kind of cutting across, but I'm going to just give this a little more space so we don't have as much congestion in there. Again, so that we get the cut back to the leaves we want to grow. And again, I'm not, see right here at this, it's growing back over towards this one. But any one of these other branches is kind of like still going in this direction, that's going back towards there. So I might just decide, well, we're going to try again, go back to that leaf, see if I can get it to grow out that way, not towards the center. Again, this one growing towards the center. Don't necessarily want that. I'll cut that, see if I can get that to go in that direction. This is another crossing branch there, get rid of that. little pruning stub from previous times. Again, sometimes you can see like, okay, well that was the last time I pruned because I got a little pruning stub there. And a branch grew from that pruning stub, but I didn't go in the direction I wanted, so maybe I didn't prune in the right spot. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. It's kind of like on the inside of a curve. It's nicer to have branches on the outside of a curve. On the inside of the curve, that doesn't look good. So if you do have a branch that kind of curves like this one did, and that branch was right on the inside of it, well then yeah, you cut that off and then allow maybe some branches in that direction on the outside of the curve. This part is obviously a lot more vigorous than these parts, so we want to kind of balance the vigor. So, and again, maybe create more taper, so I'm going to cut that off, get that top off there. So, again, could make a good cutting, but we're going to have one cutting tonight. All right. Again, some of these rocks were put in to stabilize it when we first got it, when we first planted it, but they're not needed anymore because these are well established in their pots now. Okay, that one was a quick one. See, I want you guys to see that. Always got to double check whether or not everything's in frame there. So there we go. That's the next pot that we just did. Again, going to get soaked in some water, get some nice deep watering on this one, and we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, now this one is actually a root over rock. See, there's the rock in there. Most of the roots are on this side. You can see you've got kind of a little baby dandelion. Get you out of there, maybe. I can. Oh, it's not going to come out. All right, so this one big thick root, a couple smaller roots. I put some moss on here. Try to see if I can get some roots to grow in this area here. And it looks like it's done a little bit good job of gripping the rock there. So we might be able to move some of the moss from around the root base. And moss works really good, or you can even use what's like a mixture of clay and bonsai soil and stuff like that. You'll find that referred to as muck. As you know, basically it's a bonsai version of mud, and you just cake it in there and let the roots grow in that area. So that's not too bad. These are a little dried out. I don't know if they're still viable or not. We're going to leave them there. We may even try to put some moist moss on there. Try to see if we can encourage more root growth. And I'm going to cut back these vigorous growing ones. Some of these branches even got a little sunburn on their leaves. See, it's got a little sunburn. But might have been sticking out of the shade canopy a bit. If this is going to be the front, we want to clear things that might be obscuring the trunk. It's a little, again, these are kind of on the inside of the curve there. And that one's growing right at the base of the other branch. Same thing for that leaf. We don't want things growing in what they refer to as the crotch of the branch. Definitely don't want things growing in the crotches. Never a good sign. Here we got some crisscross branches here. Got this branch comes down over here, then shoots this way. And this guy's laying right over the top of it. Now this one's coming out from, let me move this leaf here a bit. Because we've got 3 branches coming off that one spot. Well, this is definitely an unnecessary branch then. I'm gonna trim this back here. And again, now the question is, do we keep this one or this one? Well, this one's thicker, but we may actually want a thick, let's see. Got this branch and this branch are very similar in terms of shape and height off the tree. Well, we got the thinner branches a little further up. So actually I'm gonna take off the thinner branch, leave the thicker branch, and then we're gonna go with, here we have 3 branches coming off of one spot. And again, one that's going more vertical, which could be a leader, one that's a little bit more horizontal, another one that's about 45 degree. I'm gonna take the one out of the middle that's in the 45 degree, giving it a little bit more space. Clean that up a little bit there. Cut this back more. And this is kind of congested in here, but we do see we've got branches coming in different directions. What I might do is I might actually take the top off of that one because that's growing up, and the other 2 are growing out. This one's out and forward, out in the back, but this one's going up and again staying thick. Cut that off. Now we've got some taper, and again keeping that branch more horizontal. This one's trying to grow up, so I'm going to take that one down. This will hopefully push the branch in this direction, and then I want to push the other branch in that direction. So we're going to cut back that one, and again hopefully what this will do is this branch will go this way, this branch will go this way, and then they'll form 2 separate pads. Now the question is, do I want this? This is again kind of the curve inside there. This is on the inside of the curve, and it was kind of interfering with these other branches. So we're gonna get rid of that. Again, these are on the outside of the curve, so we're hopefully getting more growth this way. And then the branch starts to curve back this way, so we're gonna keep that one as our primary branch, but let's see. I'm not going to cut any further back on that one. Oh, I should though. Maybe I should cut it back to there because it is kind of thick, and I don't want it to get out of scale with the other branches. That's what I'm going to do. Cut that back. Let that gain vigor. And now it's kind of a damaged leaf, sunburnt. So I'm going to actually cut that one back a little more, see if I can get a different branch growing from there. All right, so that's what we're going to do with that one. Again, we're going to, and I might pack some more moss into there. Hold on. So what I've got here is I've got some sphagnum moss, and I've got a little bit of like the perlite and the pumice that had floated up out of the the pots. There's the other little the what's your thoughts? Yeah, the perlite and the pumice that had floated out of the other pots that were soaking. They had formed a little layer on the top of the water there. So when I soaked this sphagnum moss, I'm like, well, let me just see if I can scoop up some of that stuff, so there'll be a little bit of bonsai soil in there too. So this will help keep the roots in that area kind of damp, encourage some root growth into there. Again, furthering the gripping of the roots around there. But like, okay, what are we going to do about this? This is kind of like all loose here. It's going to fall out. Well, there's something we can do about that. I'll take a little bit of bubble wrap here and cut it. Maybe not with those scissors. Those didn't work too good for cutting bubble wrap, but these will. Probably don't need that much, but you just want to give this a little bit of my rat's nest of wire here. And say this lightweight wire. It ends up doing this. So it's very frustrating. So sometimes you just end up grabbing a piece and cutting it. And I'm just going to take this and kind of wrap it around a little bit there, just to keep the sphagnum moss moist. And maybe we'll use the whole thing. There we go. We cut it, we might as well. All right. And then take a little wire. Hold that in place. Now water can still get in, but it'll have more trouble getting out. So when it gets watered, water will go in there, water will go in here, but it won't evaporate as much from there, from the sphagnum moss underneath the plastic, and it'll hopefully keep that wet enough that more roots will grow around that rock. All right, so this one's going to go in the dip tank over there, my little dip water bowl there. Get it nice and soaking wet. All right, well, I just realized I've been going on this for about an hour. I've done 6 trees. I still have 8 more to do. This is going to have to be a 2-parter. I'm not going to make you sit through a 2-hour video of watching me. This is bad enough. I did it for about an hour. So, I'm going to let you guys go now. I'm going to go to bed. Have a good night. If you liked what you see, hit the like and subscribe. And comment. Leave a comment. That always helps. I like to see what people are commenting about. And whether or not you like things or didn't like things, you let me know. I'm trying to learn as I go, so your input is very valuable. So y'all have a good night and stay cool, and happy bonsai.